Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today I'm going to be talking to you about another Renaissance artist, Michelangelo de Caravaggio. He was one of the younger generations of Renaissance artists, so younger than the famous Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. His dates were he was born in 1571 and he died in 1610. My students, you're going to need a piece of paper and something to write with. When you're done, you're giving me a paragraph or two paragraphs of 7 to 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important about the works of Michelangelo de Caravaggio. This is a portrait of Caravaggio done by Ottavio Leoni. It probably was not done during his lifetime, but shortly afterwards. Um, the painting is um, in a museum in Italy. This painting is called The Musicians. It was painted between 1595 and 1596. And it is showing one of the things about Caravaggio's artwork that people really loved. And it is that very Renaissance idea of looking incredibly realistic. He literally would pose young models for himself, um, dressed in the costumes, and paint them in the way he thought that was appropriate to the scene. Here, not only can you see the muscles in the back of the young man to the right, you can see the shadows being cast appropriately. The musician is obviously tuning his instrument, getting prepared to do the work that needs to be done. So it's very accurate. Caravaggio did follow a lot of the traditional themes of the Renaissance. One of those themes was ancient Greek and Roman mythology. The picture we're looking at now is called Narcissus at the Source. It's from between 1597 and 1599. It's currently in the Galleria Nazionale d'Arte Antica in Rome. If you know the story of Narcissus, he was a beautiful young man, and one day he goes down to the river or a lake to have a drink of water, and he looks down into the water and sees his own reflection and falls in love with the person who is there and can't bring himself to take his eyes off of this person and continues to stare at him indefinitely until he dies. And the word narcissist has come to refer to someone who is desperately in love with themselves. Now, in this particular painting, you can see the incredible realism of the picture. One of the interesting things, of course, is that there's no nudity. He's got the guy fully dressed in clothing. And of course, you can see the reflection of Narcissus in the water below. Another very popular theme in the Renaissance, of course, were Christian stories. This is called The Conversion on the Way to Damascus. It's from 1601, and it is in the Saracen Chapel, Santa Maria del Popolo in Rome. And this is dealing with the conversion of Saul, who becomes Paul, from being Jewish to being a Christian. And the story goes that Saul, being a very strong Jew, would travel around charging people with Christianity, which is a crime, and finding them guilty. And he really thought he was helping them out because hopefully they'll repent their sins and return to Judaism. So one day he's riding a horse towards a town. There is a bright light. It knocks him off his horse. And in the bright light, God says, Saul, Saul, why are you prosecuting me? And Saul is blinded by the light, and he has to be helped by the man you can see on the right to get into the town. There, he converts to Christianity and becomes a strong leader and speaker and writer in Christian thought. Now, normally, when they show this picture, they show the bright light, they show something in the clouds of the bright light to show that Jesus or God are speaking to Saul. But in this version, it looks very, very realistic as it would have looked. Saul has fallen off the horse. He's lying in the ground, looking in a state of shock. He can't believe what has happened. The person with him obviously doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't know why Saul has been blinded. And so it is done in a very different version than was normal at the time. Another unique thing about Caravaggio's paintings is that he did enjoy the gory, gross stuff. This picture is David with the head of Goliath, done between 1609 and 1610. Normally, when they would do paintings or sculptures of David, it's often just before he kills Goliath. You see this beautiful young man. Often the sculptors love to do him so that they could sculpt a beautiful young man's body. And if you look at David, he does look very nice. You can see the muscle tone in the sides of his chest and around his shoulders and things like that. But yes, Caravaggio wants us to see the truly gory stuff with this recently decapitated head, with the mouth open and the blood draining out, so that you're really getting an idea of how truly gross this would have been in real life. This painting is called The Calling of St. Matthew, and it's got a lot going on in it. To begin with, you can see there's actually a line of light and darkness. And what's over to the right and down is done in dark, and what's above is in light. So you can really see how he is doing things with his shadows. Jesus is pointing to the tax collector, Matthew, calling him to join him. And Matthew, of course, would have been someone that most people thought was highly inappropriate to choose for this sort of a thing. And he's actually pointing at someone else and saying, are you sure it's me and not him that you should be calling? If you are a music enthusiast, you have seen this famous poster from 1969 in which they changed the group of gamblers around Matthew um, into the famous band, the Beatles. Paul McCartney, who's the guy in the black outfit pointing to someone else, is the one who is being put forward as the character of Matthew. And this picture has become extremely famous and extremely popular. This, once again, is a rather gruesome Bible study story. It is from the execution of John the Baptist. Um, Caravaggio lived a crazy life. He did gamble and drink a great deal. He often got into fights with people. He apparently killed somebody, possibly in self defense, and had to flee from Rome and go into other places. Um, and he died relatively young. He was 38 years old when he died. There are lots of different theories on the cause of his death. It may have been venereal disease of some sort. We really don't know. But he died really young, having left a huge body of really impressive, exciting, beautiful work. Okay, my students, we have been talking about the artwork of the Renaissance artist Michelangelo Caravaggio. You are giving me between 7 and 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important.